Scripture. Well, I've seconded or forcibly recruited some of your young people today to help me with the message, and they'll be sharing part of the message with me today as we participate in this. And really what I'm going to share today is a parable, and a parable based upon this portion of Scripture. I could look around and ask you to define what a parable is. And really a parable is something used quite frequently by Jesus in teaching. But a parable is a simple story that everyone can grasp, and there's a deeper spiritual truth. A simple story with a spiritual meaning. So we are going to use a parable today, geared especially to our young people, to teach us, all of us, a lesson this morning from this portion of Scripture. Now, some of you may say, well, I'm not too sure what I would say. Now, if we go home from here and everyone asks, well, what did that officer from DHQ speak on today? What was that message like? Was it profound? And in a few moments, some of you may realize, well, it is a simple parable geared to the young people of our congregation. And we may not want to go back home and say, this is what the message and the major did. We might be a little bit embarrassed when we talk to some of our sophisticated neighbors. So I'm going to give you an escape. Instead of having to go home and say a parable about something simple, you can go home and say that the major spoke on an ecclesiastical allegory. There won't be a person to ask you the next question. They'll just be impressed. So we're going to have, for the adults, an ecclesiastical allegory, a story of the church that teaches us a lesson. For the rest of us who got no shame, a parable. And the parable is based on a book or a story that was first published back in 1843 and by James Orchard Halliwell. And the story contains some very well-known characters. 3 pigs and a wolf. And they are going to tell us a story, or we're going to reflect on a story and make a good parable of it. Well, these 3 young pigs grew up in a wonderful home. They all had the best of experience growing up. They had a loving family. But the time had now come for them to move out and go on their own, to mature, to build their own homes, find their own place to where they would go. And they were given this advice by their wise old mother. You have heard me talk about the old enemy, our wolf. When he hears you are out of my house, he will try to catch you. He is very sly and will no doubt disguise himself and try to be your friend. Isn't that advice for those of you who have children, and those of you in particular who have had children that moved on and have now moved to other communities or gone off for education? When they first moved out, in some form or fashion, you gave them that advice to be careful. My wife remembers growing up, when she moved out for the first time, her father pulled her aside, now remember who you are, where you are from, and that God loves you. Same sort of advice. Remember what you have been taught. Remember the lessons of your childhood. As we reflect on, as we have talked about, train up a child in the way that they should go, and they shall not depart from it. We claim that verse for our families. We claim that verse for our children. So this is a verse that's claimed for us this morning, that we have 3 young children, pigs, who are moving out of the home today and are going to be building themselves their own homes. But immediately as Mom warned them, someone is there waiting. A wolf. And I will call our wolf today worldly wolf. The worldly wolf. And Scripture warns of him also. Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around seeking who he may devour. So here are the characters of our ecclesiastical allegory, or parable, so to speak, this morning. And we will be first introduced to the first pig. And the first pig is a pig that has moved out of home and come with all the eagerness and all the ability to build a home. And they are going to build their home out of straw. It may not be the wisest of materials, but it is indeed a material that is readily available and easy to find. So we are told today in our scriptural allegory that the home that we are building is not necessarily a physical home, not a structure, but a spiritual home. Our home, our hearts and our souls are the dwelling place of God. And we have to be careful what building materials we select. So this first pig, this first young person moving out and going onto their own, has decided to use straw. What would that parallel ourselves to this morning for our young people and for us? They would do someone who moved out and decided, I'm not going to Sunday school, I'm not going to junior soldiers, I don't attend youth group, I'm not going to church, I do none of that stuff, I've just given it up. If mom or dad aren't there to make me go, I give up. I'm going to do nothing about it. I believe nothing. I read my Bible? No, I don't do anything. I've even dropped my good Christian friends and friends that I've gone to church with. I leave them behind. I've gone off on my own. Well, that pig, I need the pig to come back. I need straw pig back. Straw pig needs to come back. Don't disappear so quick, straw pig. Straw pig is standing in their house of straw and thinking everything is quite fine. But along comes who? Worldly wolf. Worldly wolf enters into the picture and comes into this picture and huffs and puffs and puffs and puffs and huffs and puffs, and down falls the house of straw. And pig runs off and wolf runs off. Well, we're going to be introduced to the second of the siblings of the pig family. And this pig, in learning something of its brother's first or sister's first encounter, says, I am a little bit wiser. I'm going to use a structure that's a little bit stronger. I'm going to build a home of sticks. I'm going to keep doing what my mom instructed me to do. My mom told me that I should attend church, I should go to junior soldiers, and I'll attend youth group off and on. But while I'm there, I'm not overly interested. I don't listen to the devotion. I'm not overly concerned about what's going on. I just rather just hang out with my friends, and I got no reason to be there. When I go home, I don't pray. I don't see no need in praying. Nor do I read my Bible or anything Bible stories. In fact, my Bible is quite dusty. Every time I use it, once or so a year, I blow the dust off, and I crack open the creaky pages. But that's what I am. I sort of believe God is there, but I don't do anything about it. Well, as our second sibling of pig completes their house, you know who comes along. Worldly wolf. Worldly wolf comes in, notices that pig, and huffs and puffs and huffs and puffs and huffs and puffs and blows down the house of sticks, and off they run with the danger. Well, the wisest of our three siblings is the next pig that we'll be introduced to. They have taken to heart everything that their mom had taught them. They continued to go to church. When they got to the new town, they found a place that they could go. They started to go to Sunday school, and in fact, got active in helping in Sunday school, took part in junior soldiers. They read their Bible and pray every day. And every day they remembered the advice of their parents and their teachers. They tried to build their life on a really good foundation. They tried to do everything that they were taught from a child all the way up through. So they were building a home on a good foundation out of solid bricks. A spiritual home that were the pieces that were used were the pieces that were familiar with prayer, scripture, teaching, fellowship, worship. All these things were the bricks that were building their spiritual house. And it was a spiritual house that God was pleased with. And a spiritual house where God wanted to live. Well, along came worldly wolf. And worldly wolf came with all the intent. I've blown down a house of straw. I've blown down a house of sticks. And now I will blow down this house. Because I can overcome everything. And the wolf huffs and puffs. And huffs and puffs. And huffs and puffs. And still huffs and puffs to the point the wolf realizes, I can't move anything in this house. I can't get in. The house is too strong. And I'm out of here. So off runs the wolf. We're left with our wise spiritual pig saying, I'm glad I believed in God. I'm glad I kept going to church. I'm glad that I built a strong spiritual house because it helped me overcome and stand up against the worldly wolf. Well, this third sibling said, you know what? I need to invite my two friends, my two siblings with me. And along came the pig of straw, the pig of sticks, and the three of them moved in together in the house that was built of brick, and the house that stood firm against the worldly wolf. Well, I'm going to invite our four actors to come in and sit down again for a few moments. You can sit down here, you can leave your hats on, that doesn't matter. You can just take a seat, and thank you for helping us out this morning. Friends, in this parable of a very familiar story, I hope we're not missing the deeper spiritual truth. That we are all builders. If you're Peyton, who's just become a junior soldier, if you're even younger than Peyton and not a junior soldier, if you're a teenager, a university student, a parent, or you're retired, we are all builders. We're not physically building a home or a structure, but we are building our spiritual lives, a spiritual temple. We are all doing that today. We're building as we're here in worship this morning. These are bricks that we're laying and investing in our lives, saying that I want to build my life, my spiritual life, my eternal life to last, to be able to withstand the challenges of this world, that worldly wolf will bring our way. Be they a temptation to do wrong, as we've heard in the junior soldier pledges, not to take part in this, not to drink that, not to do anything that would harm our bodies, to withstand that temptation. And it's great temptation. Our children are tempted to be dragged off into so many different directions. So that spiritual house gives us that defense to stand up against the temptations of the wolf, so to speak. The Junior Soldier Pledge also challenges us to use the right material. The Junior Soldier's Pledge says we need to pray, we need to read our Bible, we need to participate in junior soldiers, to attend church. These are bricks. These are solid building materials. They're not materials that will crumble when difficult things come our way or temptations come our way. Doesn't mean the life is always going to be easy, and it won't. But when we build with the right materials, just like today out there now, it's huffing and puffing, isn't it? It is definitely huffing and puffing. And if we had lived or were in a weak structure built of sticks or straw, what would we expect? The building literally to come down around us. But when we build with strength and with integrity, no matter how much the wind huffs and puffs, the house stands firm. Same is true for us, spiritually speaking. So my challenge to you, each one of us this morning, it's a profound truth, but hopefully presented simple enough that we can all understand. What are you building your house out of? What building material are you choosing? Will your house, spiritual house, withstand the temptation and difficulties of life? Or will it come tumbling down? For our young people, it is our prayer as a church, as a Salvation Army, as we offer you and as we present to you and we exemplify in our lives, this is what we want you to build with. Here's the material that we need, that you'll remember them, that you'll use them, and that you'll see your life grow as a great temple where God will dwell each and every moment. God's way is the best way, and the way of God will see us, each one, through in our lives. So we're going to spend a few moments now together and have a time of renewal and reflection. You'll see on the mercy seat there in front of us some renewal cards, and there are more available up here. You may want to come this morning and just renew your pledge and say, you know what, in coming this morning, as a young person, as an older person, and saying, I want to renew my pledge. I want to renew my pledge and say, God, this morning, I want to build a good spiritual house for you to live in. And I need a good spiritual house. Because I want to grow up to be the best person I can be. I want to be the best adult I can be. I want to be the best mom I can be. I want to be the best dad and best grandparent that I can be. So help me to choose the best material and help me to build it in your name. Now, we primarily think of young people, but I've actually been in junior soldier services too, where some of the adults come. Adults will come and support their young people. Moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever. You can come and support your young person that may be needing. Some of you may want to come and just say, you know what, that junior soldier pledge has never grown old in my life. It meant a lot to me when I was 7 or 8, and it still means a lot to me. And you just may want to come and say, with the faith of a child, faith that changes the world, God, help me to be a builder of the temple of God in my life.